We're going to start our recording so I don't forget. And we'll give it a couple of more minutes and then we'll start. Welcome everyone to the Parent Power Group. Today we are so excited to have Niccole Florence, physical and nutritional health with Coach Fitt Niccs. And this is an introduction to physical and nutritional health and how to access better foods now. The topic today is health now, not later. I know there's a tendency to procrastinate and put things off, but we're going to do it now, not later. Meanwhile, I'll give you a little information about the Wooten Center. The Al Wooten Jr. Center is a nonprofit organized and founded by Myrtle Frey Rump in 1990 in honor of her son killed in a drive-by shooting. The center provides free after-school and summer programs for students in grades 3 to 12 in the South Los Angeles area. The Parent Power Group workshops are presented in partnership with the Green Foundation and other donors, which can be found at www.wootencenter.org/donors. This is one of a series this month, so we'll have the opportunity to talk about a number of different topics. Today is Health Now, Not Later. On the 14th, food that can heal or harm. The 21st is how to lose/gain weight. And on the 28th is setting realistic goals. So we're excited about the March lineup. We are a COVID-19 educator. So giving you a bit more information weekly in regards to COVID-19 is help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases like COVID-19. The things we've been doing for the past 2 years: avoid close contact with people who are sick, cover your cough or sneeze with a tissue, clean and disinfect frequently, stay home when you're sick, except to go to medical care, wash your hands often with soap and water, avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouths. I know quite a few of the masking mandates are being lifted, but we still have to practice what my mom would say, common sense, when it comes to protecting ourselves. COVID tests are available for free, regardless of immigration status. And when we do what's right, we can keep our communities safe. Our sponsor is the Green Foundation, and we'll talk about that at the end also. But if you do need COVID-19 supports, please scan the QR codes, or sometimes just scan it in case you know somebody that needs it. And to be able to get in touch with the Green Foundation. So without further ado, I'll go back. I have to go backwards. We'll go back so we can start with our speaker. And
we're ready.
We're ready. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Awesome. I'm excited that I was invited. I really appreciate just even being invited to spread the word, to share about health, wealth, and the benefits of it, and especially in this season of COVID, right? So a little bit of my story. I was actually, I got up to about 200 pounds. And one of the reasons that made me change my diet was my kids, and my health. So I was toggling between diabetes. So that was actually something that woke me up to say, okay, you got to make a difference. Not only that, my kids were watching, right? So I had to be very intentional and mindful of that. So when I first started this journey, I started every Monday like everybody else, right? And I failed several times until one day I woke up and I made the decision that I'm going to take care of my health. I didn't say anything to anybody. I didn't make an announcement. I didn't try to get a partner. I didn't say anything. I just started moving. As I began to move and my body began to change, people began to notice. As I moved forward, I started competing in bodybuilding shows. I competed 2 to 3 times. And that was something I didn't plan on doing, but it was something that was birthed out of it, that I began to do this work, that was kind of the ultimate thing of, okay, let me challenge myself and see if I can compete in even place. And I did. But I'll tell you this, the weight loss was a bonus. As I began the process, I know it was nothing but God that began to not only heal my body physically, he began to heal me mentally and emotionally. There were so many things that I was holding on to, harboring, that it was actually a reflection on the outside. So I tell people that, you know, as I would go on my runs or would go on my jogs, that God healed my heart from unforgiveness. God healed my heart from resentment. God healed my heart from brokenness. All of these things that the Holy Spirit began to bring to the forefront of my mind that I thought that I was over, it had not been, but God promised me that he was going to heal me in the process, and the weight loss was going to be the bonus. So that's a little bit about me. And I started late in the game. I was an athlete in high school, but that all went away after, you know, family, kids, and, you know, work, jobs, and everything like that. So needless to say, it was a process that I made a decision to submit to, and I was very intentional about it once I made the decision. So I just wanted to share that with you all, and I want to talk to you. I am going to lovingly rebuke some habits, and then I'm going to encourage you on how to get in alignment with some new habits. The first thing I want to talk about is just the statistics of African Americans is 49.6% that are overweight. Now, mind you, that's increased. Not only, we're no longer just overweight, we're going into morbidly obese. And that's also true for Hispanics, it's 44.8%. Now, between men and women, the statistics aren't that much different. Women, I believe, are about at 50.2% or something, but collectively, we're 49%. That's a big deal for us, is to have that big of a number that we are obese. And in this time of COVID, one of the reasons that we are affected is because our health takes it's kind of the last thing on the totem pole. I don't think that it's done intentionally. I don't think anybody plans on doing or living like that intentionally, but it happens between life, work, and everything else. It happens. But it's the last thing on the totem pole, but it's the first thing that we need, right? You get sick as a parent. My kid is here. Your kids don't care. They still need what they need from you. So it's like we're on the airplane and they say, take care of yourself first, and then you'll be able to take care of everybody else. We have to make that a priority to begin to take care of ourselves. And not only that, we're 49.6% that we're overweight. It's all the other things that come with being overweight, right? All of the health issue, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, all of these things come with it, amongst other illnesses that come with being overweight. I do not advocate something to a fault or excessively, but having a healthy view about how you go about it. And that's going to start with inside of how you view this. You don't want to become so obsessed where you create something else, right? You create another illness because you're obsessed with it. The main thing is I like to say, encourage people to begin to heal from the ailments that they have been diagnosed with, right? My first priority is to get you off of medications, get you healed from that, or lower your dosage, or get better management with whatever it is you've been diagnosed with. And although we are the African Americans are the highest, we're the ones that pay more when it comes to healthcare. We pay over $1,400, $1,492 more in healthcare because of obesity than another person who has a healthy body weight, right? So that's something, stick a pin in that, because we're going to talk about that towards the end. So we're paying for it. And here's the deal. You're either going to pay for it financially, or you're going to pay for it physically, right? You're just going to have to choose which one you're willing to pay. But in this instance, you're paying for it with your health, your mobility, your agility, how you get around when you walk. You know, just basic stuff, being able to walk upstairs is difficult for some people, right? So you want to be able to at least have the mobility to get around. And that's going to start with you being intentional and taking care of your health and what we eat. The next thing I want to talk about is historical factors. Now, most of us, not everybody, some of us were raised from a place of lack, right? We were told, when you got a plate and your parents fix your plate, what did they say? You better eat all of that, right? You better not waste nothing, right? So what happens is that we carry that as adults, and we begin to eat everything on our plates out of guilt, out of habit, and how we were taught. I remember one time I told my son, I fixed his plate, and he said, you know, can I have seconds? I'm like, I got you. I'm here for it. I fixed his plate and I brought his plate back to him, and he said, now, I love him dearly, but he almost didn't make it to the next year. He said, why would you give me the same amount as the first amount? And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm the mom. He said, I just wanted a little more, right? But out of, you know, just being the parent that I am, I'm like, let me give him the same amount that he had before. Not realizing that I was beginning to teach my kids on when they eat, not to have a gauge when to stop. At that point, I started teaching them, eat to your content. Don't eat till you in a carb coma, eat to your content. So a lot of this is habit. A lot of it is we came from a place of lack before our parents. I know for my age, before my parents and their parents, they were eating scraps. They were eating all of the stuff that was just readily available. So, but it wasn't the food changed and the availability changed. We came into a place where we were able to have access to more food, but we still come from that place of not having enough. So when we come from that place, we shop like gluttons and we eat the same way. I always tell people, look at your refrigerator, look what's inside. You look inside, do you favor what's inside? Most of the time we do, whether it's healthy, whether it's not healthy. So we want to be kind of mindful of that. And historically, I know, you know, because we've come from that place, that's something we've passed on. So it's habitual, it's generational, that we've taught our kids to kind of overeat. Because not only are the statistics high for African-American adults, our children are becoming obese at the age of 2. So we're buying the food. And if we're buying the food, we're prepping our kids for the pharmaceutical companies before they're even 12, before they're even 10. That is almost like it's promise that if we keep feeding our kids how we're feeding them, the pharmaceutical is waiting to give them the diabetes medication, ready to give them the high blood pressure, ready to give them all the medications that we're on. So we want to kind of get to a point where we can hone down and begin to shop for our kids' future health and for ours as well. Although I was talking to another coach, and we were just having this conversation. It brought up a good point. There are no big bone skeletons, right? Which means that we all have a choice in how we eat. Now, we're built different than a lot of other races, but skeletally, we're all the same. And what happens is that just with social media, with all these things and all the access that we do, we go out a lot, we eat a lot, we go through a lot of drive-throughs, it's causing us to become overweight. And I just want us to get to a point where we're being intentional with our diet and what we eat and what we put in our bodies. If we have luxury cars, we put that 91 in there, even with the $17 gas. We're gonna put the good gas in the car. We're gonna take care of it. So that's the same thing that we should do with our food. We should eat quality food, and also to portion it out as well. Also, the availability. Now, when it comes to the availability, I would actually encourage people to go more to farmers markets, eat fresh. There was a time when our parents grew their food. They grew it. We can go back and get some greens. We can go back and get all of these things, but there are some people that still do it, but we've kind of moved away from that. But we were at least eating fresh, and our parents were at least cooking every day. So that's something that, when it comes to the availability, I would say that in certain areas, the accessibility isn't the same as in other areas. Like, some people can walk to the grocery stores. Some people have easy access to these places, whereas in other low income areas or impoverished areas, sometimes it's difficult to get to those foods. But I would suggest looking up local farmers markets. There are farmers markets all over the place, but looking up local farmer markets, starting with that and eating as fresh as you can, and getting to the place where you're back cooking again as well. So when it comes to the availability, as far as access and as far as in the neighborhoods, we still have a work to do when it comes to that. But as far as now, we have Amazon. Now we have where people will deliver your food, right? We have food banks. We have food that we can get to and we can access too. Now we just got to be picky in what foods we choose and we eat. And the last thing is the expense. And like I mentioned before about how being overweight will cost you over $1,400 more than somebody who's at a healthy body weight. It's still a cost, right? So when people say, and I hear this often, eating healthy is expensive. But here's the deal. How often do you go out to eat? How often do you buy that coffee? How often do you go to Chick-fil-A? How often do you go through any drive-through? Add all of that up. Once you add all of that up, you realize that you have the money to do it. We're just not choosing to do so. And sometimes I know, because of parents and small children, it's difficult because you're just trying to get home. You're just trying to get ready for the next day. But if we don't change how we grocery shop, if we don't change how we eat, we're not only going to compromise our health, we're going to compromise our children's health, right? Because our children are also depending on us as well. I would also say, start planning your meals. We have Google, we have Pinterest, we have all of these resources now that we can kind of go to say, okay, let me plan my meals and let me see what healthy dinners I can make to provide for my kids. When I first started this process, my kids knew Starbucks before the age of 3, before they could read. They knew McDonald's before they could read. They knew every drive-through. As a toddler, they knew the streets. They couldn't name the streets, but they knew when I was on the street to get to the fast food place that we normally go to, right? So like I said, I realized I was training my kids to do that as adults. And not only, I have to not only teach my kids, but I'm planting the seed for my grandkids so that my kids will feed my grandkids some healthy foods and that they'll take care of their health and their bodies as well. So I would definitely say, when you say it's too expensive, you got to choose which expense you're willing to pay. Am I willing to pay in doctor's bills? Am I willing to pay for hospital stays? Am I willing to pay for all of these, replace these medications and replacements and all this stuff? Am I willing to pay for that? Or could I get on the road to a more healthier lifestyle by cooking meals, by cooking and planning meals? Because I meal prep, I can kind of look at, when I go grocery shopping, I can kind of look at the meals and say, okay, this is going to create about 8 to 10 meals, but it's because they're all portioned out. You can get more out of it when they're portioned, out. But a lot of times when we do cook, we're overeating, right? So it's looking at your plate and saying, okay, it's what on my plate, how much I have on my plate, is that going to get me closer to my goal? Or is that going to keep me farther away from my goal? Is this going to trigger my diabetes, high blood pressure, or is this going to help me manage my high blood pressure? Is this going to heal me, or is this going to harm me? There's a choice every time we come across when we do eat. Not saying that you're going to be perfect in this, right? Not saying that every time you do it, you're going to be perfect in this. It's going to take practice. It's going to take you becoming habitual. And you got to remember, you're breaking an old habit. So because you're breaking an old habit, the new habit has got to fight through what you've taught your body to do. The new habit got to fight through what you taught your taste buds, all of that. The new habits, it's going to be a fight with you doing it. But you got to anticipate that and know, okay, this is going to come with it, but I'm okay with it because I want to live a more healthier life, not just for myself, but also for my kids. But we have to be intentional. We have to be on purpose, and we have to want it more than we don't want it. So I just want to encourage each one of you to begin to slowly, I always tell my clients, don't take everything away right away, but start adding new things every week. So if water is your issue, instead of drinking 2 little bottles, add 1 more, right? If you drink sodas 7 days a week, so instead of drinking them 7 days a week, okay, I'm gonna drink them 5. Although it's still a lot, it's still less than what you did the week before. Small changes, small things that don't overwhelm you will get you to the bigger goal. We set small goals to get to the bigger goal, right? So we just have to be mindful and intentional with our bodies, with our health. I do believe this, that God gave us this house. God gave us this temple, and I want to be a good steward over it. I want to be faithful over it to the best of my ability, right? There's things that happen in life. I can't control everything, but what I can do is use the resources God has given me here to begin to heal my body so that I can live a more healthier life. So I actually have it's a challenge, I guess, that I want to share. So it's a walking challenge. And those of you that already walk, that already do it, this should be nothing. So there's a blank one, and then there's one to from Los Angeles to Las Vegas. It's a virtual walk, meaning all you do is log your walk. So I think it's 309 miles to walk. So every day you just log your miles. So if you walk 5 miles today, you log 5, you put 5 or how many miles until you get to 309 and 9. Now, I believe, have a blank one that you can put your own destination. But I think you guys can walk to Vegas. So that's something, because I'm going to be with you for the next couple of weeks. That's something I would like for you to work on. And we'll see where we end up, how many miles you've ended up walking by the end of the 4 weeks. And I can bet you it's more than what you would have done before. So we're gonna celebrate every mile, every walk, everything, every thing that you do that's different than what you were doing before we started this process. I think you're capable. I think we all can do what we put our mind to if we're intentional and on purpose. So I just want to thank you guys again for inviting me. Did I go over? So
No, you can do questions as well.
yes, that's what anybody have any questions?
And then there's also some messages in the chat.
Okay. You ready for the challenge, Jennifer?
Yes, I am.
I downloaded the paper. I'm ready.
Let's get it.
So let me see, what are the questions in the chat? I'm looking.
Ready?
But I have a quick
Sheree, that's
question.
my client. Hi, Sheree.
What was the hardest thing when you first started? When you first started, but you said you started, you didn't tell anybody, but when you first started, what was the hardest thing?
I was actually a Pepsi addict. Legit. I would drink a case a day, right? The hardest thing was me coming off of those, because it's almost like you're coming like an addiction. I got the headaches. I got all of that. That was the hardest thing to come off. So what I had to do was I would wake up in the morning and that's what I would drink. So what I did was I stopped buying the case. I would still drink it, but I wouldn't have it in the house. The food was the hardest part. I knew that once I locked into the workout, because I was an athlete years ago, I knew at some point that was gonna click. The food was the issue. So I would say, just to answer, it was my food and Pepsi. And that was probably my most difficult challenge. But that was the thing. Once I stopped Pepsi, Ibo Hata, let me tell you something. I dropped 15 pounds.
Wow.
Just from stop drinking sugar. I didn't only stop drinking Pepsi. I stopped drinking. I cut out all sugar. Now, I am a waterer. And if I do drink something, I dilute it. Like if I drink a juice, I can't even drink it anymore. I'll have to dilute it. Like if I drink orange juice, I'll have to dilute it because of the sugar. But the sugar is what causes us to gain the weight. The sugar is going to turn into fat. And the minute you start minimizing it, like I said, it's not that you got to stop all the sugar today, but set a system in place that you say, okay, I'm not going to do it 2 days out of the week. All I'm going to do is drink water. The rest of it, I'm still going to do what I do. But you have to find that thing that you know kind of has a hold on you. That's the thing that you got to master. And it's only because you got to create a new habit. And here's the other thing. Those of us that are no longer 23, 24.
Well,
Listen.
Well,
Listen. I gotta take my glasses off for that one. Listen, let me tell you something. We hitting the 30, 40, 50. Your body does not do the same as it did in the 20s. I could do what I wanted to in my 20s and it fell off. I had kids, weight fit, everything fell off, right? We start getting older, hormonal changes, life changes. A lot of things happen and it don't fall off like it used to. It's a mystery. But we can get a hold of it. We're not as active as we were either, as we were in our 20s. And even when we were growing up, we played outside. We couldn't come in the house. Right? We played outside. We played in the street. We were super active. We're not that active anymore. As adults, we still can be active. I tell my kids, listen, I'm gonna be healthy because I'm gonna run y'all ragged and I'm gonna run my grandkids ragged. But you got to figure out what is that for some of you guys. What would be your biggest hurdle? What has been your biggest hurdle?
Sherry in the chat, is talking about the sugar, and is there a better time? Like, okay, we're not ready to give it up, but
Okay,
is there a better time in the daytime to have
a morning, because you're moving for the rest of the day. What happens? We eat. We'll take all of this stuff in at night, and then we out. We're sleeping on it, right? So I would say if you do it in the morning. Bread isn't a bad thing. It just depends on what type you get. It isn't a bad carbs. Aren't bad. What happens is that we're overeating everything. That's the issue. Carbohydrates aren't like this, bad thing that a lot of people like to portray it. But it can be if it's not used correctly, right? So you want to get like a whole wheat, whole grain type of bread, and you do want to be mindful of how much you eat. Like if that's something you eat all day, yeah, you might want to pull back and say, okay, let me mix it up. Now you have the carbohydrates in the bread, but we're eating carbohydrates also throughout the day, whether that's pasta, potatoes, or whatever else, that rice that we're taking in. So, and the other thing is that sometimes we don't realize that the bloating, some of us that get bloated, that's where it's coming from. Right? Some are full of it. If you're not digesting it, and if you're not eliminating it, it is sitting right in your midsection. So you have to make sure that, especially as we age, that you're consuming more fiber, right? So you want to make sure, and then for some that eat bread or gluten, you got to make sure that if you're, gluten intolerant, because that also causes the bloating in your belly as well. You said not exercising?
Yeah.
Did somebody say something?
Yeah, there was a question regarding exercising, but we have another section on exercising that we're going to go into depth about that. But a couple of questions are about the stomach area.
Where?
Yeah, they were, we'll do a teaser exercise in question. And
so your stomach, and as cliche as it might sound, is what's in your refrigerator. You can go look in your refrigerator now. You'll be able to tell yourself what's happening, because it's your diet and nutrition. That's the one thing that I try to push for people to practice and get down, because I can get you probably to walk. I can get you to walk. I can get you to do some workouts. But if the diet isn't in conjunction with, it's not going to matter. So it depends on what you're eating. So what you're eating, for some of us, to depend on how we are genetically, how we're built. You got some people that can eat and it go all in the right places. For the rest of us, it goes all in the wrong places. So you have to kind of genetically look at your body and say, where does it go? A lot of times, when it does come to our bellies, like I said, it's what we're eating. Even though drive-thrus are convenient, you got to remember, how do they keep that food? How is that food being preserved? That preservative is preserving you, right? So it's cool. It's definitely a very convenient to go through a drive-through, especially when you're just busy. But I will always say, cooking is the best thing you can do for yourself and your kids. Not only just for the health of it, but for the communion of it. Is that I get to sit with my family and my kids. There was a time we would sit and have to talk. When my mom would cook, we would all sit at the table. So that's actually a time to kind of decompress and talk to our family, talk to our kids, see where their heads are, and have a conversation, because we're always on the move, we're always going. So definitely, I would say, no matter how many crunches you do, for your stomach, you got to stop crunching with your mouth. And I'm looking at y'all with my good eye.
I think that keeps coming up is time in terms of eating. Is there optimal time, in terms of, let's say, having your breakfast, or is there an optimal time, like you shouldn't eat after 6 or 7? Does that have anything to do with anything? Because
that's all going to depend. Let's say it depends on, opposed to the person that works out 3 or 4 or 5 days a week, opposed to the person that doesn't. That caloric intake is definitely going to be different than the person that's working out, right? You have some people that don't particularly like to eat breakfast in the morning. Sometimes they don't eat it till 10, 11 o'clock. The main thing is to be able to get X calories in to maintain what you have, or if you're maintaining your weight, or if you're losing your weight, to get those calories in before the end of the day. Now, when we say time, there's not really a set time to stop eating. The issue, depending, if I stay up to 9 o'clock, right, and I eat, you have to stay up at least 2 hours after for your food to digest. Everybody don't go to bed at 7:30 like me. So it can't be. But that's because I get up at 3:45 in the morning. So it just depends on the person, their activity, the level of their activity, how much they are moving, how much they're not moving. Are they sedentary? That's going to make the decision on how many calories you can take in and how many calories you can't, or you shouldn't. So to maintain a certain body weight, I would say, like, for somebody, depending on the height, weight, those are things that I figure out, is, okay, if they're 5'4", let's take me, 5'4", or 3, I'm something, 5'4", 150, work out 5 days a week, I take in 2,200 calories. That's difficult for somebody who do not eat all day. Most problem that I find with a lot of women in general is not that you don't eat, you're not eating enough. Most people that I know is eating 1 or 2 meals a day. And then they're so busy, or they're so caught up in whatever they're doing, that they're forgetting to eat. So what happens is that when you forget to eat, or you don't eat, your body says, oh, she's not going to feed me today, so I'm just going to hold on to this. And we don't get to pick to choose where it gets stored. So like water, in order for your body to lose water weight, you have to drink water. In order for your body to lose body fat, you got to eat food. As in a shake meal replacement, Sonia, they do have meal replacements available, which are a good choice which is a good choice if you're not going to be able to get your food. If you have a meal replacement or protein shake, I move towards more of the vegan protein shakes at most of the time. I take those shakes when I cannot get to a meal, so that I can at least get the nutrients that I need. It is not an end all, it's a supplement. So you say, I'm too busy, I'm not gonna be able to go to lunch, you make the shake. Because your body still needs the calories and your body still needs the nutrients. So if you have, 1,800 calorie, where you have to meet an 1,800 calorie need, and you're only at 600 calories or 1,000 calories, that's gonna help you meet that 1,800. Because you know that if we try to get as close as we can to it, we're not gonna hit it every time, but we try to get as closest to that we can to it, because we know that that's the only way our body's gonna release our body weight, our fat. So you gotta eat to lose, and you gotta drink water to lose. So you gotta make sure that you have those things with you. If you don't, you'll forget about it. Who's doing soup? Yes, yes. You're doing soups in the crock pot. I love the crock pot. I throw everything in the crock pot in the morning and go on about my father's business. Right?
Exactly.
We can make this simple, we can make it hard. It doesn't have to be a 5-course meal. Throw something in that crock pot and go on. When you come home, it's ready.
What about plateaus? Is there such a thing, and how do you, if so, how do you get beyond it?
Yes, there is. There's a plateau. Sometimes there's a dietary plateau. Sometimes there's physical. When you work out, you have to change something. So what got you to the first destination is going to maintain you. It's not going to take you any farther, right? So if I work out, or if I give a workout to a client, I have to change it every 4 to 6 weeks, because their body adjusts to it. So once I adjust to the 4 weeks, and the more you do it, the faster you adjust. So what took you 6 weeks to adjust to the first program may take you only 2.5 weeks the next time, right? So it's not necessarily I got to change the workout, but I would have to change the weight. I would have to change the reps. I would have to switch some things around just so I can give your body something new, and then it'll start releasing it again. And sometimes with the diet, sometimes we think we're eating clean, right? Not realizing we can eat cleaner. When I began to prep for a show, I remember telling my coach, but I eat clean. I eat clean. She said, you're not eating clean enough. And by this time, I'm journaling. I'm writing down what I'm eating. And she said, I had to show her. And when she saw it, she saw what it was that I was doing. And that's something I recommend as well, is journal, write down what you eat. If you write down what you eat, you'll actually see, even though you may not know exactly like what you're looking at, you'll see it. Oh, I'm actually eating all 2,200 calories in this meal, or I'm actually doing this or doing that. So look at, kind of take, I always say at least a couple days. You don't have to do it every day. I did it every day for a while, but even if you did it for about 7 days, you wrote it down, you'll be able to see what it is you're doing. And most of the time, if I don't have it written down, if you don't have it written down, you're not going to be able to make the correction. We assume, and so we go on with our life. But if you want to make the correction, write it down. Then from that point, you're able to get very clear on where you're going. You're not going to be able to know what you want to do or where we're going until you get very clear of what you're doing. Right?
On the exercise,
My Fitness Pal, yes. My Fitness Pal is a great source. Great source. You log in, it tells you, I think some of them really breaks it down to your macronutrients, your fats, your carbs, and all of that. But you log in, and definitely a great source.
Me and my husband became pescatarian
Nice.
over 4 years ago. And in the first few months, I lost like 30 pounds. And my husband lost over 70 because but he was also running every day.
Ah,
And I wasn't doing any exercise really, because I had just had
Okay.
knee surgery.
oh,
But anyway, that's the reason why I asked about the plateau, because I said over 4 years ago, right? I've
yeah.
been pretty much the same weight ever since then. And I know I need to take it to the next level, with exercise and things like that. The good news is I've stayed about the same. I haven't,
Okay.
it's like I keep jumping in between like 5 pounds, going up and down, and without even really trying, you know. But so, but I feel like I'm at a plateau, and I need to do something different to really lose, because I still want to lose like about 100
What are
pounds.
you eating what do you tell me a typical meal?
Okay, like today I had mixed vegetables. So I had zucchini, carrots, mangoes, cabbage, bell peppers, onions, and a slice of bread. And so I actually ate that for lunch and breakfast today.
Okay.
Now, on another day, Grubhub has become my friend. So,
Okay.
which is really hasn't been good, because the sodium, I actually just got out of the hospital last week, and I had fluid on my heart and lungs, and the doctor said it was sodium. Well, the weird thing about it is we don't cook with salt at all at home. We use all herbs, garlic powder, stuff like that. But we buy Grubhub. So even if you buy Jamaican food, it's full of sodium. If you buy Beyond Burgers, it's plant-based, but it's full of sodium. That's what I just found out, right?
Yes.
It's like that, but until something like this happens, you realize how bad it is, because not doing it at home, but just doing it out, is what's done it. But so now I got to figure out how to get off of this plateau, and how to make sure, that I'm eating more fresh. The doctor said, he said, eating fresh food, not frozen, any processed,
Yes.
eating out and stuff like that. So, but it's the plateau thing. I need a plan for myself so I can
Well,
finally lose this 100 pounds.
I would say for you already said it, right? When we eat out, you got to remember how they got to preserve this stuff. So not only are we dealing with the sodium of them preserving it, all the other stuff that they have to, because they're feeding the masses. That's what they're worried about, right? So I would say pull back from Grubhub. What's your water intake?
I might have, like I'll say an average of maybe 16 ounces a day. I know that's not a lot.
No, you yeah, no. You want to at least add another, I would say, like I said, start slow, add another 8 ounces for this week, right? For the next week, add more, right? Because that's also too going to help flush the sodium. But you definitely, because let's say this, the fluctuation can also be water weight. As women, period, just alone, we can fluctuate between 6 to 8 pounds in water weight every morning. That can shift. So you kind of take that into consideration. But I would say choose when you're going to do Grubhub. Not saying you got to pull back, but you want to be mindful. If your body is sensitive to it, I would say stay away from it. Right?
Yeah.
And if you can, I know with your knees, are you able to walk, or do you have like maybe a bike?
I can now. I'm fine now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe once you rebuke Grubhub and start walking, your body's going to shift. It's going to shift because now you're adding something different.
All right. Okay.
Who loves oxtails? I love oxtails too. It's not. So here's the deal. It's not that oxtails are going to take you out, right? It's just that we just overdo it. We just do things excessively. Couscous, somebody asked about, couscous is actually good. And rice, it's the portion size. I would say just take in about a half a cup with your meal. If you're eating regularly, a half a cup should be fine. But if you're waiting to the last minute to eat, it's going to make you feel like you're starving. So I would say do about half a cup, 1 cup, I would say, with the rice or couscous. Don't let that be a majority of your plate. Let the vegetables or whatever you take be most of your plate. Greek yogurt is good as a snack. Almonds, as of course we all know. If you're able to make your own, of course, just because you know what's in it. Pretzels. I would say if you do it, although it's almond butter, but the one that has the oil on the top. Also, too, we got to be mindful too. I know a lot of people are afraid of not eating fats. Eating healthy fats is one of the biggest things that a lot of people are afraid of, but we need it. We need it for brain function. We need fat. So your avocados, your almonds, cooking in avocado oils, or just some type of fat fish, salmon, getting your omegas in at least a couple of days out of the week. We need it. It's a necessity.
Okay, so we're going to recap our homework for next week. All right. Now, we need to do our walking. We're going to try to write what we're eating. We're going to try.
Yes.
And I'm going to show real quick about next week so we can plan for next week. So next week, foods that can heal or harm you, how to read nutritional labels and recipes for the meal for the whole family, eat and enjoy, so that we can plan our game plan for next week.
Yes.
But before we're approaching our, the 7 o'clock hour, we want to give any last minute questions. Otherwise, write them down for next week. But we'll give you some last minute.
Quick. Oh, okay. Lachana. Thank you, Lauren.
All right, so if we don't have any last minute questions, one last thing I want to remind everyone about, although everybody's ready to be post-COVID, we're not there yet. And to, just do the right thing, in terms of wear your mask. Nobody has to tell you the right thing to do. You know the right things to do. But if you need COVID support, the Green Foundation is definitely there. We want to thank Niccole, and we go wear you out this month. We go wear you out.
I'm with it.
I'm ready to get my arms like your arms, girl. I'm ready to get those arms going. So we are motivated.
Let's make it happen.
And we are excited about meeting as a group. And Lauren, thank you so much for sharing your mom. We totally appreciate you. And everyone, before you leave, if you can definitely sign your name and zip code in the chat. And also, I invite everyone to look at the resources that we have going on at the Wooten Center. There are some amazing resources, and the Parent Power Group is one of them, but there's so many others. Any last comments? Lauren, you have anything to say? I totally appreciate you. I love your comments in the chat. This has been fun.
She's been instilling this in me for, quite some time now. So I'm just glad that she's able to share this with, everybody. I'm excited to hear the other sessions as well. So everybody just make sure that you keep coming back on Mondays and bring your friends and just tell your community.
Does everybody know Coach Fitt Niccs is your mom, Lauren?
No, they don't.
They're probably they can look at your
That's my
faces
mom.
and see it.
She's my mom.
Yes. And Lauren is an intern with us, so thank you.
Mhm.
That was good, Coach. So I'm looking
Thank you.
forward to the month. This is great. Thank you.
We're gonna make it happen. We're gonna do better. We all are gonna do better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. So once again, I thank everyone for being here. I look forward to seeing who is the best student and who have their homework next week.
Oh,
Let's
It's
get it.
It's on.
I'm excited.
Yes.
I'm excited.
hey, we can make this interesting. You
Excuse
make
me,
it interesting.
could you
Okay.
repeat the homework, please?
She just put it back in the chat. The challenge.
Yeah, can you explain it to them again, I guess?
Okay. So the challenge is did you put both or one?
I'm putting the second one right now.
Okay. There's a virtual walk. So there's one from Los Angeles to Las Vegas. So what we do is we just log in our miles virtually. So if you walk, 5 miles tomorrow, just log it. The goal is to get to 309 miles. Now we have a month. We have some time to log all of it in. So I think it'll be great, fun, light competition to see who's gonna get to those 300 miles. You'd be surprised after chasing them kids and work, how many miles you put, especially if you have a watch. So we're gonna virtually do that where you walk 309 miles and you log it in every day. How many miles you walk until you reach 309 miles. Because I have a blank one, or I think one, what's the other? Is it blank, Lauren? Or to Long Beach?
I think one you gave me was for 17,
Okay, we're not doing that one.
and then one was for 309. LA
Yeah,
to
we're
Long
walking
Beach
to
and
Vegas.
LA to Vegas. Okay, so
We're walking to Vegas. And first I was like, I'll give them the 17 miles. But then I met I felt everybody. I felt like you guys could do 309.
I have an offer for the challenge.
ooh.
Okay, okay.
Okay, 3 offers. 1, everybody who makes the goal, you get a $10 Jamba Juice card. Is Jamba Juice a good place? Coach?
It's a good place. They got good
Okay.
options.
All right. So if you reach both of them, that's 2 cards. Okay, so that's $20. Now the 2 people who make the most on one challenge and the most on the other one, $100 each.
Woo!
Not Jamba Juice card, but
Can I
Visa
join?
card.
No.
A Visa card, okay? And this is totally honor system. So, we expecting y'all to tell the truth. But at the end, at the fourth meeting, not after, but at the 4th meeting, whoever has the most, as long as it's over the goal amount, $100 for 2 people. So did I say that right?
Yes.
So that's 2 $100 Visa cards and a $10 Jamba Juice for everyone who makes the goal. Okay?
Wow.
She just raised the stakes. No
The
excuses.
stakes have been raised.
Listen, somebody better start straight early in the morning. See, she's starting now.
So Miss Lauren and Miss
That's motivation.
Alberta, yeah, you guys can start putting that out on social media too. Let them know.
I'm excited.
All right. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you guys. And, I know everybody's about to go and cook and do whatever, but we definitely appreciate you spending your evening with us. And the challenge is on. So I'll see you next week.
See you next week. Thank you again. I appreciate you.
All right. Good night,
Bye-bye.
Joe.
Good night.
Bye.